Hey my creative cats and kittens, so I am going to show you how to draw that kaleidoscope image and drawing that you saw in the classroom. The first thing you're going to do is need to get some supplies. You will need some graph paper, you will need some kind of tracing paper, like gift tissue can work, and artist tracing paper will work, and even some wax papers from your kitchen might work. So something that you can trace with, or really thin paper that you can see through easily. You'll need some kind of straight edge or ruler, and then you'll need a pencil. So the first step in doing the kaleidoscope is giving yourself a square to draw on. So you need to draw out a square on your graph paper. I did mine 20 units by 20 units. You don't have to do 20 units by 20 units. You can make it larger. You can make it smaller. For your first time, I would make it probably a little bit larger if you want to change the size, but 20 by 20 should be a good starting point. So you'll need to take your straight edge and draw out a square, meaning that all sides have 20 units. So that's your first step. If you want to pause here, you can, so that you can do that and then get ready for step 2. Step 2, you're going to draw in the bisecting lines of that square. So I typically start with my diagonal lines, and I get my straight edge and I just go from corner to corner and then the opposite corners, and that gives me the point that's in the middle. And then if you count, if I've got 20 units here, 10 in should be my bisecting line, and then I can just draw that line in, or my bisecting point, and I can draw that line in, and they all will meet here, and then your horizontal line as well. So you'll have 10 and 10 units on each side, and it creates this like triangle cheese wedge is what I like to call it. Make sure when you're drawing in those lines that you do it very lightly, because eventually you will erase those lines. Okay, so if you want to pause here and draw in those diagonals, you can do so now. Your next step, once you have those diagonals drawn in, is to start working on your letters. I highly suggest you create your letters in a very straight way using using your straight edge, just because working with straight lines is a lot easier than working with curved lines. Now once you've practiced this a couple times, you can definitely start some curved lines, but you're going to draw the letters in one of the triangle wedges here. So I always start with this one on the right side that is lining up with that x-axis. So like this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis. So I always start with the one that starts, it's just like you're reading it, right? Like, so you've got your L, M, M. Those are my initials. What you want to make sure that you're doing is taking each letter from that bisecting line all the way down to the x-axis. You can connect your letters, or you can not connect your letters. It's totally up to you. But it's really, really important to go from your top of your letters should be at that bisecting diagonal line all the way down to that x-axis for the bottom of your letter. So I'll give you some time to pause here and draw in your letters. Step 4 is when you actually start to create your kaleidoscope. Okay, so this is where the tracing paper comes in. You are going to trace on your tracing paper the letters that you've drawn. A lot of times, my first time out, what I'll do is I'll use my straight edge and just go on top of those lines. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry about perfection. If you try to be too perfect, it will stress you out. So just draw the lines on the tracing paper to the best of your ability. Once you draw them on your tracing paper, you're going to flip your paper over so that your letters are upside down, and then you're going to turn your paper, your tracing paper, 90 degrees. Then you want to line it up with the tops of the letters on that diagonal. And because maybe it wasn't perfect, sometimes you have to kind of play with exactly where it should fit. So you should start seeing how like the letters should be able to go to the y-axis line. you're going to trace over this. When you trace over this, what happens is you get a real light imprint on your paper of your letters. So then what I like to do is, once I have that light imprint, is go over it with my straight edge to draw in those letters a little more thick. Then what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over again. This time you're not going to turn it 90 degrees because you want the bottom of the letters to line up on that y-axis with the bottom of the letters. Okay, so you're just going to do this process: trace, flip and turn 90 degrees, match the tops of the letters up, trace, flip it over, do not turn, match the bottoms up, and go all the way around. What you'll start to notice is, like here, this letter will create a center square. And so these shapes will start to take form, and you'll be able to see them. Once those shapes take form, you can go back over them and connect them, because sometimes they'll be a little disconnected. You'll go back over them and connect them, and then erase all that x-axis, y-axis, and those diagonal lines. Don't erase your letter lines, just erase those axis lines. So like this L, how this part makes that line or is on top of that line, you're not going to erase that because it's part of your letter, but you're going to erase all the other ones in between. And then you can start to color in each of those shapes, the whole shape, not the letter. You're going to color in the shapes. And I would use about 3 to 4, no more than 5 different colors, because then it just looks like a rainbow threw up on your kaleidoscope. But if you do it with a pattern, it starts to look really, really cool. You'll notice that these letters here are going to end up creating like arrows. So when you are done, I would love for you to share pictures with me of your kaleidoscope. And if you have any problems, please reach out to me, let me know, and I can help walk you through kind of where you're at. Hope you have fun doing this project.